when you're talking about the shadow, you just have to. That just means that you've recognized that for what's the positive aspects of your representation of whatever it is you're representing, there's a negative side to it as well, and you just it's like you have to be accepting of the fact that you've selected a part of it, and that's what you're working with, but that the other part also is there, and that you can't deny it. You have to assimilate it all. You're
You have
both.
to accept that it's part of you.
Yes, and then go on, and you're working your focus, but you don't deny anything. You don't deny what's out of focus.
Right.
You just say, I'm going to work this part of the and allow the other to be there, and I won't condemn myself for it being there. I won't. It's part
Right.
of what goes on, and it's
Well, and I think that that's what the church has had us do for
Sure.
a long while,
I agree.
which is to have us condemn ourselves for certain things. Okay.
yeah, anything they chose.
Well, anything they chose, but I mean, the one that is my bugaboo is masturbation. Okay, just because.
99.999% of the people in the world do it, and the church said don't.
Yeah, and so all right, so that's a classic example for guys, and since there's no women here tonight, we
Well,
can.
they do it too.
They do it too, and in a sense, we all have to do it because, you know,
They go crazy.
we have physical functions,
Yeah.
and you would go crazy if you didn't, and if and there's no woman that could keep up with your prostate gland, basically. Right? I mean, isn't that fair enough to say?
I've got them on the start line. Here's prostate gland.
I mean,
Sorry,
but
it's just an image.
okay, but I mean, this is a shadow thing that okay, it happens when we're teenage guys, and what do we do about it? We don't know what to do about it. Chances are our fathers don't tell us what to do about it. If we feel guilty enough, maybe we would tell a priest about it. I don't know. Would you have? I wouldn't have. But and so that's even worse. You're condemned to hell because not only do you do it, but you won't tell the priest about it and get absolved. Yeah. Okay, maybe.
How many times?
Maybe John doesn't want to talk about that.
As a priest.
I mean, but I can't imagine myself talking to a priest about it. Okay, and so that's even worse. Okay, because you're thinking there's something wrong with you. Why is this necessary, and so on. And yet, it's such a natural function that if we just accepted it and taught our children about it properly in a sensible way, then things would be a lot better.
But I do have a new insight now into the Reformation.
Which is okay. Let's have it. Let's have it.
No, I mean it's just that there's a bunch of guys, and they're supposed to feel guilty about something that they thoroughly enjoy. I mean, at some point you got to go. You buzz off.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just being facetious. I mean,
well, obviously it didn't work too well because there are plenty of young Catholic boys that.
and Quakers and Shakers and everybody else, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how those people live. So.
I don't know how they live
That
either,
was-
but obviously
I agree.
celibacy didn't work in the Catholic
I
ministry.
I grew up in a Protestant house, but I had my mom, who was the youngest, had two older brothers. So I think she was very forgiving of anything like that because it was never an issue. It was just something I didn't worry about, and she didn't make, you know.
Well, what's built into the Protestant culture seems to me is a kind of a hypocrisy about all of that.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
the guilt goes with it. You know, there's a hypocrisy and there's the guilt
That's right.
as a complex.
But I'm just saying
Okay,
that
but
there
I
wasn't
mean-
that guilt wasn't in my culture so much.
But the hypocrisy obviously is a safety valve. I mean, it has to be. It has to be.
Well, certainly, if you don't tell the priest about it, that's hypocritical. And it's a safety valve. I agree that there's some things that may seem so wrong to you, even though they're perfectly natural and part of your physical functioning.
And that's in the unconscious, the collective unconscious, right?
What's in the collective unconscious is probably the sense that it's
Yeah.
evil,
Yeah.
right? And it's so evil that you can't even tell the
Nah.
priest about it.
No, I would say that what's in the collective unconscious is that it's perfectly natural, and that what's in the collective memory is that it's evil, and there's a conflict, and that's where the
You think that in the collective unconscious it's accepted as natural? I'm not sure about that.
well, see, the collective unconscious is natural. That's heard. That's
Well,
that's
right.
biology. Whereas the collective memory is the culture and everything
But,
else
but
that's
you're saying
imposed.
that the evolution of guilt doesn't happen in the collective unconscious, so it's not natural? Of course it comes up sometimes.
Well, as I understand it, no, it doesn't happen in the collective unconscious. It
Why not?
happens in the conflict between the collective memory and the collective unconscious in the ego. There is the collective unconscious is part of the self. I don't think the self carries any value system like that of guilt.
I agree with that. Okay. I agree that from the self's point of view, the self wants you to do it. I think, okay, we're talking about masturbation here. One of our favorite talk.
word up.
The first time I talked about masturbation in this group, I turned off a woman psychotherapist, and she took off and never came back.
Is that in the first few?
I remember
visits?
that. I remember.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed too personal at that time to be talking about. So I think it.
Well, it's
Activated her personally.
well, it's personal, and it's personal to me at age 71 also. Okay, but I think it's an issue that certainly men have to deal with, and
And I don't think women want to deal with it in public anyway.
well, they don't want to deal with it in public, and
It's a male issue. Go
I don't know
go talk to your
who
buddies.
who can even talk about it. I mean, have you ever talked to a buddy about it before this evening or before the times it's come up in this group?
About jacking off.
Yeah, about masturbation.
Yeah,
You have.
sure.
Okay. Have you?
Well, I've had things expressed to me about it. Yeah.
You have.
I went to a boys' school for one thing, so I mean that was just
Jokes
everybody.
made about it. You know, jokes made about
But
it.
I mean it was
Okay.
there was that,
But-
and then there's
All right.
other times.
So the question is, John, will the average Catholic young man or man talk to the priest about it?
Well, I don't know if there's a prohibition, a moral prohibition on it anymore. I mean, I haven't been part of that.
Was
church
there
for-
ever a moral prohibition?
Probably, but I don't remember it being taught when I was growing up.
I mean, the
Catholic.
only moral prohibition I know of is celibacy, and celibacy obviously is honored in the breach.
Well, interestingly enough, there wasn't anything taught in Catholic catechism and whatnot about sexual matters. It was all abstract theoretical
Okay.
knowledge, and so when you went to confession, you could pretty much make up your own sins. I mean, not make them up, but you could selective. You could be selective about them, and if it wasn't considered a sin, you wouldn't have confessed it.
Okay.
And so sexual
So-
matters, a lot of times, were not considered
We're not
Well,
considered,
we're not considered
sins by
sins.
the Catholic Church.
unless it was something really big like adultery or something like that.
Incest.
I know
Okay.
it sounds odd, but
I mean, maybe it's only me feeling guilty. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not Catholic or Jewish.
Well, I'm
my
not
own-
Catholic
my own
either.
attitude was it's my own private business anyway, and what I want to tell the priest, I will tell him, but what I don't want to, I won't.
Okay, and
So-
and so that and so what you didn't tell him was, did you regard that as hiding something from him, or
What if it didn't trouble you, though? You wouldn't talk to him about something that didn't trouble you.
That's right.
Even if
Right.
there was a thing on the wall saying, do not masturbate.
There
If
almost
it didn't
has to be
bother
a
you,
guilt complex associated with it. Which
yeah,
is a
but
very
where
good point,
where
though.
okay, where does the guilt complex come from then? Okay, let's analyze me. It's fair enough. I mean, I'm willing to do that,
I
but
think it's even though you know that you've given yourself permission to do something that is maybe a little on edge with regard to the culture or the values, and there's still something holding you back, that to me, that's got to be an unconscious impulse to hold that back.
to feel guilty about it. Okay, all
Well,
right.
to hold you back from doing it.
It never held me back from doing it. Okay, but let's talk about how this came up. Okay, when I was in about, I would say, the 7th or 8th grade, I don't know, my parents were out one time, and for whatever reason, I was rooting around in their drawers, in their chest of drawers, and lo and behold, underneath my father's underwear, I found a Playboy calendar. Okay, and oh my God, that got me going.
Numinous experience.
That was certainly numinous. I certainly remember some of those images, and those images were hugely chaste compared to
Oh, I
what we
know,
see
yeah, yeah.
today,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, when my parent, so anyway, my father was hiding it, okay, or at least he was hiding the fact that he had some interest in those magazines. I don't know what he was doing, honestly. I don't know what he was doing. But
Yeah, but no, my father had when he moved out of his house, he's like 80 years old, and there's I don't want to, but when we're getting his stuff out, underneath and in between, we found a Playboy.
right?
So
Okay.
he had, you know, I think every guy takes care of himself one way or the other.
Right. Okay. And so, but you know, it's a problem in society. Okay. To me, it's a problem in society because let's say, fundamentalist women think that we have to suppress all pornography, let's call it pornography because it is pornography today.
I think that's
I mean,
dying. I think we're in the last gasp of that.
Of what?
Repression of.
That repression?
Oh, that's going to slam back big time, believe me.
What,
Well, I
the
don't
repression?
know. I think the technology is going to make it'll have, the technology already has so much momentum, the robots, everything else that's going to be happening. I think it'll become, not in 1 or 2 generations, but over some generations, it'll just be so normal, all of these sexual things, and there'll just be ways of handling it that nobody will care about. It'll just. So I just think,
Well, I hope that's true. I mean,
well, we won't be around to see it, but yeah.
no, we won't be around to see it. But I mean, look, right now there are some serious societal issues, okay, because images that are now out there on the internet are pretty horrific, okay, and they're abusive.
But they're reflective of where we're coming from, of all that repression. And I think
Yeah.
at some point it'll be more matter of fact and nonchalant. It's sort of like,
Okay, but then, so what's
also,
the
I grew
answer?
up in the 60s.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I was in a different venue.
Yeah, you definitely were.
Forget about those, what I gave that talk about Neumann, that there are people out there who are willing to suppress this sort of thing with brutal force. And the culture, if it creates a disorder in society, the culture is gonna try to contain that.
Well,
And
I'm
it'll-
just saying culture's evolving, and at some point, over the generations, those kinds of things will have less repercussions. I think already they do. I mean, if I don't know. I don't know. I think of the 20s where everything got wild and crazy.
It could be like Rome. I mean, it could get into a situation like Rome, I suppose. I don't know. If I knew more history of Rome, then I could probably get a better grasp on where
Yeah.
where it's going. I don't know if the
But
sexual
everything
liberation
has
of Rome.
to change. Marriage has to change. The idea of children has to change.
Well, marriages are just falling apart.